To continue from where we left off last time, we were ought to start architecture in the Deccan. So, moving on, many different styles of temple architecture influenced by both North and South Indian temples were used in regions like Karnataka. While some scholars consider the buildings in this region as being distinctly either Nagara or Dravida, a hybridized style that seems to have become popular after the mid 17th century is known in some ancient texts as Vesara. By the late 7th or the early 8th century, the ambitious projects at Alora became even grander. By about 750 CE, the early Western Chalukya control of the Deccan was taken by Rashtrakutas. The greatest achievement in architecture is the Kailashnath temple at Alora, a culmination of at least a millennium long tradition in rock cut architecture in India. It is complete Dravida building with a Nandi shrine since the temple is dedicated to Shiva, a gopuram like gateway surrounding cloisters, subsidiary shrines, staircases, and an imposing tower of Vimana rising to 30 meters. Importantly, all of this is carved out of the living rock. One portion of the monolithic hill was carved patiently to build the Kailashnath temple. The sculpture of Rashtrakuta phase at Alora is dynamic, the figures often larger than life size, infused with parallel grandeur and most overwhelming energy. In the southern part of the Deccan example, in the region of Karnataka, is where some of the most experimental hybrid style of Vesara architecture are to be found. This is the Kailashnath temple at Ellora in Ahmednagar, and this one is Aurangabad, my mistake. And this is the temple at Badami. This is Durga temple at Ehol. Pulakesin the first established the Western Chalukya kingdom, where he secured the land around Badami in 543. The early Western Chalukya ruled most of the Deccan till the mid 8th century, when they were superseded by the Rashtrakutas. Early Chalukyan activity also taken the form of rock cut caves, while later activities of structural temples. The earliest is probably the Ravana Pahadi cave at Ehol, which is known for its distinctive sculptural style. One of the most important sculpture at the site is the Nataraja, surrounded by larger than life depictions of the Sapta Bhatrikas, three to Shiva's left and four to his right. The figures are characterized by graceful, slim bodies, long oval faces topped with extremely tall, cylindrical crowns, and shown to wear short dhotis marked by fine incised striations indicating pleating. They are distinctly different from contemporary Western Deccan or Vakataka styles seen at places such as Paunar and Ramtek in Maharashtra. This is the Virupaksha temple at Patadakal, and this is the Somnath temple in Gujarat. The hybridization and incorporation of several styles was a hallmark of Chalukyan building. The most elaborate of the Chalukyan temple at Pattadakal, made in the reign of Vikramaditya II from 733 to 44 by his chief queen Loka Mahadevi in Virupaksha temple. Another important temple from this site is Papnath temple, dedicated to Lord Shiva. The temple is one of the best early example of the Dravidian tradition. By the contrast, other eastern Chalukyan temples like the Mahakuta, 5 kilometers from Badami, and the Swarga Brahma temple at Alampur show a greater assimilation of northern styles from Odisha and Rajasthan. At the same time, Durga temple at Ehol is unique, having an earlier style of apsidal shrine which is reminiscent of the Buddhist Chaitya hall, and is surrounded by veranda of a later kind with a shikara that is stylistically like a Nagara one. Finally, mention must be made of Ladkhan temple in Aihole in Karnataka. This seems to be inspired by the wooden roofed temples of the hills, except that it is constructed out of stone. How then shall we understand these different styles at one place? As curiosities or innovations? Undoubtedly, they are dynamic expression of a creative set of architects who were competing with their peers in the rest of India. Whatever one's explanation is, these buildings remain of great art historical interest. With the waning of Chola and Pandya power, the Hoysala of Karnataka grew to the prominence in South India and became most important patron centered at Mysore. The remains around 100 temples have been found in southern Deccan, though it is only three of them and the most frequently discussed, the temples at Belur, Halebid, and Somnathpuram. Perhaps the most characteristic features of these temples is that they grow extremely complex with so many projecting angles emerging from the previously straightforward square temple that the plan of these temples start looking like a star and is thus known as the stellate plan. Since they are made out of soapstone, which is a relatively soft stone, the artists were able to carve their sculpture intricately. This can be seen particularly in the jewelry of the gods that adorned their temple walls. The Hoysaleshwara temple, Lord of Hoysalas, at the Halebid in Karnataka was built in dark schist stone by the Hoysala kin in 1150. Hoysala temples are sometimes called hybrid or Vesara, as their unique style seems neither completely Dravida nor Nagara, but somewhere in between. They are easily distinguishable from other medieval temples by their highly original star like ground plans and a profusion of decorative carvings. This is the Natraja at Helibid. Dedicated to Shiva as Natraja, the Helibid temple is double building with large hall for the mandapa to facilitate music and dance. A Nandi pavilion precedes each building. The tower of the temple here and at nearby Belur fell long ago, and an idea of the temple's appearance can now only be gleaned from their detailed miniature versions. Flanking the entrance from the central square plan cutout angular projections create the star effect decorated with the most profuse carvings of animals and deities. With the most profuse carvings of, my bad. So intricate is the carving that it is said, for instance, in the bottommost frieze, featuring a continuous procession of hundreds of elephants with their mayhot, no two elephants are in the same pose. Found in 1336, Vijayanagara, literally city of victory, attracted number of international travelers such as Italian Niccolo di Conti, the Portuguese Domenico Paes, Fernão Nunes and Dorothy Barbosa, and Afghan Abd al Razak, who have left vivid accounts of the city. In addition, various Sanskrit and Telugu works document the vibrant literary tradition of this kingdom. Architecturally, Vijayanagara synthesizes the centuries old Dravida temple architecture with Islamic styles demonstrated by the neighboring sultanates. The sculpture, too, although fundamentally derived from and consciously seeking to recreate Chola ideals, occasionally show the presence of foreigners. The eclectic ruins from the late 15th and early 16th century preserve a fascinating time in history, an age of wealth, exploration, and cultural fusion. Buddhist and Jaina architectural development. So far, although we have focused on the nature of developments in Hindu architecture from the 5th to the 14th centuries, it must constantly be kept in mind that this was also the period when Buddhist and Jaina development were equally vibrant and often went hand in glove with Hindu ones. Sites such as Ellora have Buddhist, Hindu, and Jaina monuments. However, Badami, Khajuraho, and Kannauj have the remains of any two of the religious right next to each other. When the Gupta Empire crumbled in the 6th century CE, the eastern region of Bihar and Bengal, historically known as Magadha, appears to have remained unified, while numerous small Rajput principalities sprang up to the west. In the 8th century, the Palas came to power in the region. The second Pala ruler, Dharmapala, became immensely powerful and established a kingdom by defeating the powerful Rajput Pratiharas. Dharampala consolidated an empire whose wealth lay in a combination of agriculture along the fertile Ganges plain and international trade. The preeminent Buddhist site is, of course, Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is a pilgrimage site since Siddhartha achieved enlightenment here and became Gautam Buddha. While the Bodhi tree is immense importance, the Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya is an important reminder of the brickwork of that time. The first shrine here, located at the base of the Bodhi tree, is said to have been constructed by King Ashoka. The Vedika around it is said to be post-Mauryan of about 100 BCE. Many of the sculptures in the niches in the temple are dated to the 8th century Pala period, while the actual Mahabodhi temple itself, as it stands now, is largely a colonial period reconstruction of the old 7th century design. The design of the temple is unusual. It is strictly speaking neither Dravida or Nagara. It is narrowly like a Nagara temple, but it rises without curving like a Dravida one. The Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya. This is the Nalanda University in Bihar, near Patna. The monastic university of Nalanda is a Mahavihara, as it is a complex of several monasteries of various sizes. Till date, only a small portion of this ancient learning center has been excavated, as most of it lies buried under the contemporary civilization, making further excavation almost impossible. Most of the information about Nalanda is based on the records of Xuanzang, or as he is known as Fa Hein to popularly. Sorry, not Fa Hein, Huanzang. Previously spelt as Huanzang. Fa Hein was another traveler who came much before Huanzang, which states that the foundation of monastery was laid by Kumaragupta I in the 5th century CE, and this was carried forward by the later monarchs who built up a fantastic university here. There is evidence that all three Buddhist doctrines, the Theravada, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana, were taught here, and monks had made their way to Nalanda and its neighboring site of Bodh Gaya, and Kurkshihar from China, Tibet, and Central Asia and the north, and Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, and various other countries from the southeastern parts of Asia. Monks and pilgrims would take back small sculptures and illustrated manuscripts from here to their own countries. Buddhist monasteries like Nalanda thus were prolific centers of art production that had a decisive impact on the arts of all the Buddhist countries in Asia. The sculptural art of Nalanda is in stucco stone and bronze, developed out of a heavy dependence on the Buddhist Gupta art of Sarnath. By the 9th century, a synthesis occurred between Sarnath Gupta idiom, the local Bihar tradition, and that of central India, leading to the formation of the Nalanda school of sculpture, characterized by distinctive facial features, body forms, and treatment of clothing and jewelry. The characteristic feature of Nalanda art, distinguished by its consistently high quality of workmanship, are that the precisely executed sculptures have an ordered appearance with little effect of crowding. Sculptures are also usually not flat in relief but are depicted in three-dimensional forms. The black slabs of the sculptures are detailed and the ornamentation delicate. The Nalanda bronze, dating between the 7th and the 8th centuries to approximately the 12th century, outnumber the discovery of metal images from other sites of the eastern India and constitute a large body of Pala period metal sculptures. Like their stone counterparts, the bronze initially relied heavily on the Sarnath and Mathura Gupta traditions. The Nalanda sculpture initially depict Buddhist deities of the Mahayana pantheon such as standing Buddha, the Bodhisattvas such as Manjuri, uh, Manjusri Kumara, Avilokateshvara seated on a lotus, and the Nagarjuna. This is the sculptural details of Nalanda. During the 11th and the 12th centuries, when Nalanda emerged as an important tantric center, the repertoire came to be dominated by Vajrayana deities such as Vajra Sharada, a form of Saraswati, Kasrapana, Avilokateshvara, etc. Depictions of crowned Buddha occurred commonly only after the 10th century. Interestingly, various Brahmanical images not conforming to the Sarnath style have also been found at Nalanda, many of which are still worshipped in small temples in the villages around the site. This is excavated site near Nalanda. This one. Sirpur in Chhattisgarh is an early Odisha style site belonging to the period between 550 to 800, with both the Hindu and the Buddhist shrines. In many ways, the iconographic and stylistic elements of the Buddhist sculpture here are similar to that of Nalanda. This is the Lakshmana temple at Sirpur near Chhattisgarh. This is close to Raipur. Later, other major Buddhist monasteries developed in Odisha, Lalitagiri, Vijayanagara, and Ratnagiri are the most important of them. This is the Lord Bahubali Gomateshwara found at Karnataka. The port town of Nagapattinam was also a major Buddhist center right until the Chola period. One of the reasons for this must have been the importance in trade with Sri Lanka, where large numbers of Buddhists still live. Bronze and stone sculptures in Chola style have come to light at Nagapattinam and generally date back to the 10th century. Jainas were prolific temple builders like the Hindu, and their sacred shrines and pilgrimage spots are to be found across the length and the breadth of India except in the hills. The oldest Jain pilgrimage sites are said to be found in Bihar. Many of these sites are famous for early Buddhist shrines. In Deccan, some of the most architecturally important Jaina sites can be found in Ellora and Aihole. In central India, Deoghar, Khajuraho, Chanderi, Gwalior have some excellent example of Jaina temple. Karnataka has a rich heritage of Jaina shrines and Sravana Belagola, the famous statue of Gomateshwara, the granite statue of Lord Bahubali, which stands 18 meters or 57 feet high, is world's tallest monolithic freestanding structure. It was commissioned by Chamundaraya, the General Chief and Prime Minister of the Ganga Kings of Mysore. This is the Jain sculpture of Mount Abu, and this is the Dilwara temple of Mount Abu. The Jain temple of Mount Abu were constructed by Vimal Shah, notable for a simplistic exterior in contrast with exuberant marble interiors. Their rich sculptural decoration with deep undercutting creates a lace-like appearance. The temple is famous for its unique patterns on every ceiling and graceful bracket figures along the domed ceiling. The great Jaina pilgrimage site in the Shatrunya Jai hill near Palitana in Kathiawar, Gujarat is imposing with scores of temples clustered together. In this chapter, we have read about the prolific sculptural and architectural remains in different types of stone, terracotta, and bronze from the 5th to the 14th centuries. Undoubtedly, there would have been sculptures made of other media like silver and gold, but these would have been melted down and rescued and reused. Many sculptures would also have been made of wood and ivory, but these have perished because of their fragility. Often sculptures would have been painted, but again, pigments cannot always survive hundreds of years, especially if these sculptures were exposed to the elements. There are also a rich tradition of plastic in this painting at this time. I'm so sorry for my distraction, but the only example that survived from the period are murals in a few religious buildings. This is Mahabalipuram. You can see the murals. There are two elephants. Let me turn my screen. I suggest you to do the same. Mahabalipuram is an important coastal town from the period of Pallavas. It is dotted with several important rock cut and freestanding structural temples, mostly made in the 7th and the 8th centuries. This large sculptural panel, one of the largest and oldest known in the world, is nearly 30 meters long and 15 meters high. There is natural cleft in the rock which has been cleverly used by its sculptors and a channel for water to flow down. This water collects in massive tanks in the front of the sculpted wall. Scholars have interpreted the story depicted on the panel differently, while some believe that it is the story of the descent of the Ganga from heaven to earth. Others believe that the main story is of the Kirata Rajuniya or Arjuna's penance, a poetic work by Bhairavi, in which is known to have been popular in the Pallava court. Other scholars have interpreted the symbolism behind the sculptures to show that the whole tableau was created to be a prashasti or something to praise the Pallava king who, they say, would have sat enthroned in the tank in front of this extraordinary backdrop. A temple has been given prominence in the relief, ascetics, and worshippers sit before it. Above this is an emaciated bearded figure standing in penance on one leg, his arm raised above his head. He has been identified by some as Bhagirath and by others as Arjuna. Arjuna's penance was to be obtained the Pashupata weapon from Shiva, whereas Bhagiratha prayed to have Ganga brought to earth. Next to this figure stands Shiva, who has one hand in bone bestowing gestures, or Varada Mudra. The small Gana or dwarf who stands below this hand may be a personification of all powerful Pashupata weapon. All the figures are shown with a slender and linear quality in an animated state of movement. Apart from humans and flying celestial, there are several naturalistically carved birds and animals as well. Particularly noteworthy are the extraordinarily well modeled and lifelike elephants and the pair of deers who are under shrine. The most humorous, however, is a cat who has been shown standing in his hind legs with its hands raised, imitating Bhagiratha or Arjuna. Close examination, however, revealed that this cat is in fact a symbolic device. He is surrounded by rats which are unable to disturb him from his penance. Perhaps this is a metaphor used by artists to show how a strong Arjuna's or Bhagiratha's penance was, who is also standing still, undisturbed by his surroundings. This is the Ravana shaking Mount Kailasha. The carvings on the outer wall of Kailashnath Temple, Ellora. You will also find the same at Elephanta Caves. On the panel, the theme of Ravana shaking Mount Kailasha has been depicted several times in caves of Ellora, but the most noteworthy of all, the one depicted on the left wall of Kailashnath Temple, Cave 16 at Ellora. The image is dated to the 8th century CE. It is a colossal sculpture and is considered to be one of the masterpieces of Indian sculpture. It depicts the episode of Ravana shaking Mount Kailasha when Lord Shiva, along with Parvati and others, were on the mountain. The two composition is divided into several tiers. The lower tiers depict Ravana multi faced and multi armed, shaking the mount with ease. The depth of the carving of the multiple hands bring out the effect of the three dimensional space. Ravana's body is angular, pushing one leg inside. The hands are expanded on the side of the inside chamber created by the image of Ravana. The upper half is divided into three frames. The center occupied by the image of Shiva and Parvati. Parvati shown moving closer to Shiva. Scared by the commotion of the hill, her stretched legs and slightly twisted body is the recessed space create a very dramatic effect of light and shade. The volume of sculpture is very pronounced. The attendant figures are equally voluminous. The gunner, dwarf figures are shown in action involved in their activity. The celestial beings above Shiva and Parvati witnessing the event are shown in frozen movements. Protrusion of volume and recession in the space are important landmarks in the uh, images of Ellora caves. Light and darkness has been exploited by creating the images in full round. Their torsos are slender with heaviness in its surface treatment, arms are slim in full round. Attendant figures on the two sides of angular frontality. Every image is the composition is beautifully interwoven structurally with each other. Later on in the continuation of the story, we'll see that Shiva crushes Ravana with his one toe uh, in the foot, like how calmly he takes it. Then this is the Lakshmana temple in Khajuraho. Again, I'll have to invert my screen once again. The temple at Khajuraho are all made of sandstone. They were patronized by Chandela dynasty. The Lakshmana temple represents the full-fledged developed style of temple architecture during the time of Chandelas. Its construction was completed by 954, the year as per the inscription found at the base of the temple by Yashovarman, the seventh ruler of Chandela dynasty. The temple plan is of the Panchayan type. The temple is constructed on heavy plinth. It consists of an Ardhamandapa porch, the Mahamandapa, greater hall, and the Garbhagriha with Vimana. Each part has a separate roof rising backward. All the halls have projected porches on their walls but not accessible to visitors. Their use is functional mainly for light and ventilation. The outer walls of the Garbhagriha and outer and inner walls around the circumambulatory path are decorated with sculptures. The shikara on the Garbhagriha is tall. The Khajuraho temples are known for their erotic sculptures. Many erotic sculptures are carved on the plinth wall. Some erotic sculptures are carved on the actual wall of the temple. Tier arrangements on the walls provide a very specific space for placement of images. The interior halls are also decorated profusely. The entrance to the Garbhagriha is sculpted with heavy, voluminous pillars and lintels carved with small images as part of the door decoration. As image of the Chaturmukha Vishnu is in the Garbhagriha, there are 4 shrines. In each corner of the temple, there are images of Vishnu in 3 shrines and a Surya in 1, which can be identified by the central image of the lintel of the shrine doors. Drapery and ornaments are given a lot of attention. A large number of bronze sculptures have been found in the country, which shall be discussed in the next chapter. We have focused on the dominant art style and some of the most famous monuments from different parts of India in the medieval period. It is important to realize that the enormous artistic achievement that we have studied here would never have been possible if artists worked alone. These large projects would have brought architects, builders, sculptors, and painters together. Above all, by studying these artworks, we are able to learn much about the kind of society that made these objects. Through them, we can summarize surmise what their buildings were like, what the types of clothes they wore, and above all, we can use the art material to reconstruct the history of their religion. These religions, as we have seen, were many and diverse and constantly changing. Hinduism and Buddhism, Jainism each have a plethora of gods and goddesses, and this was the period when Bhakti and Tantra, two major developments, affected them. Temples also became a space for many other art forms, such as music and dance, and from the 10th century onwards, temples became large landowners as kings and feudal lords gave them land for their maintenance, once and upkeep, and performed an administrative role as well. The project work is not that important. It says find a monastery or a temple in or around your town, note down its important features such as different architectural features, sculptural styles, identification of images, dynastic affiliation, and patronage. Some overview questions are mark out all the places discussed in the chapter on map of India, what are the commonalities and different between Indian and South Indian temples, make a diagram to supplement your answer. Bring out the stylistic difference of any two sculptural traditions such as Pala, Chola, Pallava, Chandela, etc. using either drawing, painting, or clay modeling. Supplement your project with a written assignment that explains the salient features of the two styles you have chosen. Compare any temple styles in India. Supplement with a line drawing. Trace the development of Buddhist art. And I think we're done with this chapter. Thank you for staying till the end.